Pokemon Sword is a game that I've never actually played. In fact, I haven't played any Pokemon game past Gen 5. So I thought it would be fun to try to beat Pokemon Sword with hardcore Nuzlocke rules using only Fairy types. Why Fairy types, you ask? Well, Fairy types were introduced in the 6th generation of Pokemon, so I've never actually played with them, and I thought that would make this challenge more interesting. The rules for this challenge are as follows. 1. If a Pokemon faints, it's considered dead and can no longer be used. We can only catch our first Fairy type encounter per area. The battle style is set to set, no items from the bag can be used in battle, and we aren't allowed to overlevel the next gym leader's highest level Pokemon before entering the battle. Also, I'll be playing this challenge without the Isle of Armor or the Crown Tundra DLC. So, here are all the Fairy type Pokemon that are available for us in the game. Pretty awesome roster, but there are a few caveats. Galarian Rapidash is a Shield exclusive, along with Aromatisse. Also, Mimikyu is only available in the post-game, so we won't be able to catch it. And Slurpuff, we can't evolve because we aren't doing any trade evolutions. But don't worry, we'll have Swirlix. The game kicks off in Postwick City, where we meet our best friend Hop and his older brother, the Pokemon champion, Leon, who starts the game off hot with a sick pose. Pretty soon after that, we're asked to choose our starter. This doesn't matter too much, so we pick Sobble, which leaves Hop with the Fire-type Scorbunny, which resists Fairy and makes the challenge that much harder. There aren't too many more notable things that happen during the intro, so let's fast forward right to when we arrive at the wild area and the game really opens up. For those of you who haven't played Sword and Shield, the wild area is a huge region at the center of all of Galar. It's split into 17 different parts and there's a ton of Pokemon to be found here. So for this challenge, instead of going for 17 encounters right at the start, I've decided to impose an additional rule. We'll start off with one encounter from the wild area, and then for each additional gym badge that we obtain, we will get another encounter. Our first encounter ends up being a Cleffa, which we nicknamed Cleffunky, and is a friendship evolution to Clefairy, so we get to do this. Woo! Eventually we tickle it enough so it evolves, and we head over to the northern part of the wild area. This is pretty dangerous because the Pokemon here are pretty high level, but this allows us to get the Moonstone, which we can use to evolve Clefairy into Clefable, which is really strong early. And before leaving, we go over and grab the leftovers, which is a great health item. And then we head into Monotype for the start of the Pokemon Gym Challenge. And we're asked to pick a trainer number, which I don't know what they expected here. Nice. And we head into the Budu Inn where we meet Marnie, another one of the gym challengers. Before long, our business in Monotype is ended and Hop challenges us to a battle on the way out. This battle is a preview of the repeated whoopings that I'm going to hand out to Hop throughout this challenge. Not really much to say here, just kind of moonblasted everything. With Hop thoroughly embarrassed, we head into the Galar Mine, where we're introduced to this guy, Bede, who's another gym challenger. He has a full team of okay psychic types, but these early battles are more like a hoop mixtape for Cleffunky than really anything else. We knock out his whole team and then move on to the next route where we get our next catch, Eevee, which evolves into Sylveon. And this is another friendship evolution, which you know what that means. Woo! Once we've had enough fun together, it evolves into a Sylveon, and then we can go into the first gym, where they have us herding sheep? What? This is just farm work. Pretty soon we're challenging the gym leader Milo. This gives us a good chance to show off the setup capability of Clefable. While we're in the wild area, we also retrieve the TR for Calm Mind, which increases our special attack and special defense by 1 stage. Clefable also learns Moonlight, which is a healing move. And since Gossifleur can't really do that much damage to Clefable, we had a chance to set up a +6 on both special attack and special defense. This allowed us to easily one-shot the Gossifleur and was probably overkill in hindsight. I just want to be sure, you know. Next up is his ace Eldegoss. This Pokemon is our introduction to the Dynamax mechanic. Basically, Dynamax just doubles your Pokemon's health and turns all your attacking moves into more powerful versions of the attacking move that alter the terrain. And your status moves turn into Max Guard, which is essentially Protect, but big. Essentially, big Pokemon, big moves, big health. Anyway, 1 Max Starfall was enough to take out his Eldegoss, and we secured the first gym badge. And we headed east to Route 5, where we encountered our next encounter, a Swirlix. Then we headed to the wild area and caught a Cutiefly. We went east on Route 5 and arrived in Hulberry and challenged the gym. And this is where we encountered our one true love, Goldeen. Unfortunately, our darling fish was not able to do enough damage to force us to do anything other than Calm Mind. This was another case of us setting up +6 on special attack and special defense, which was obviously overkill. But, you know, you just gotta be sure, okay? And with our special attack at +6, which is a 4 times multiplier, Moonblast was more than enough to take out the Goldeen. Next up was Arrokuda, who was faster than us, so he got a little bit of damage, but ultimately went down to Moonblast. Finally was the Ace Dreadnought, which she Dynamaxed obviously. This thing also actually outsped us, so we did have to live through a max geyser, but Clefable tanked it like a champ. And then we got our own max starfall off, which was probably more than enough to take out the Dreadnought. Second gym badge in the pocket. And with that, we headed east again, into the second part of the Galar Mine. And then Bede was waiting for us there, and he wanted that smoke. I really tried to warn him. After taking out 2 gym battles, we decided to give Clefairy a rest and let Sylveon take the lead. Sylveon has pretty high special attack and really great special defense, so it was able to take the hits from the psychic types and dish out its own damage and take out the whole team with minimal effort. He did have a new member of his team, this Galarian Ponyta, which outsped Sylveon and got a little bit of damage, but nothing too scary. After getting repeatedly dunked on, he finally got out of our way and let us progress. We headed out of the mine after a few battles and encountered our next team member, a Coughing. Now this isn't immediately useful because it's only Wheezing that has the fairy typing, so we have to wait till it evolves at 35, so it's on the bench until the 4th gym. But this Wheezing does add awesome stuff to our team. It has great physical defense, which our team is severely lacking right now, and the Poison Fairy type is an amazing defensive type. We also head back to the wild area and get our next encounter there, which is a Ralts. Adding a Psychic type to this team is a great counter to Poison, which we're currently weak against. Next up is the Fire Gym, which is the first gym that I'm actually worried about. Not only does Fire resist Fairy type moves, but all of his Pokemon are actually physical attackers, which our team is pretty weak to. Luckily, most of the Fairy types in this game learn the move Charm, which lowers the attack stat of the opponent by 2 stages. Also, our Clefable has Magic Guard, which makes it so it doesn't take any damage from statuses, like Burn, for instance. So, the Ninetales effectively wastes a turn by putting Will-O-Wisp on us, and this allows us to get a Charm off, which effectively halves the damage that Ninetales can do. And with that, we start setting up the Calm Minds. And this time around, we actually switched out Moonblast for the move Stored Power. Stored Power is a move that gets more powerful the more stat ups that your Pokemon has. This, in combination with Calm Mind, which raises special attack and special defense, is an insanely powerful combo. I won't go too deep into the math, but just know, after 6 Calm Minds, this move hits for nearly double the damage of Hyper Beam. So, as you can imagine, this takes out the Ninetales. Next, Kabu sends in his Arcanine, who outspeeds us and hits us with a move, but ultimately, it goes down to a Stored Power. Finally, he sends in his ace, a Scorch. I was worried about the damage from his max move, so I used Guard first, then we get a max Mindstorm off, which actually doesn't kill. So we have to tank a G-Max move. This doesn't do too much damage, and the Scorch goes down to the next Mindstorm. With a 3rd gym badge in hand, we're led into Hammerlock. Here we meet the Dragon Master Raihan. He doesn't even remember our name, and that's a big part of his job. Anyway, we head out west, have a quick run-in with Team Yell, and meet Opal, who has to be my favorite character in this game. I mean, just look at how slow they made her walk. It goes on for so long. Anyway, we move on to Route 6, which is full of ladders. And there's nothing wrong with that by itself, but in a world where there are free flying taxis, the fact that the only road that goes out of the biggest city has ladders all over it seems weird to me. Anyway, we arrive in Stow on side, grab the Rocky Helmet, and then Hop wants to fight. At this point, our Ralts has evolved into a Gardevoir, and we've taught it the moveset Protect, Wish, Calm Mind, and Psybeam, which against Hop's Cramorant is great because it uses Dive often. So, on the turn that it dives initially, we use Calm Mind, and then on the second turn of Dive, when it actually attacks, we Protect. This, combined with a few wishes, is enough to get us all the way up to +6 on Calm Mind. So, everything is going well. We hit it with a Psybeam. I think it's fainted. And then it just smacks us in the face with a fish. What is that? Luckily, that doesn't do too much damage, and he sends in his next Pokemon, a Toxel. And this thing is literally in diapers, so one Psybeam cleans it up. Next up is a Silicobra, and we continue the sweep. Finally, Scorbunny's evolved into a Reboot, but that doesn't matter too much, it goes down to one Psybeam. Our highlight reel against Hop continues. Opal's back, too. Hey. We head into the gym for some weird carnival ride, and then we challenge Bia. Going into this gym, I wasn't too worried because Fairy counters fighting, and Gardevoir's a Fairy Psychic type, which double counters fighting. So I set up a couple charms on the Hitmontop, and then I started setting up Calm Minds on Gardevoir. Part of the way through the setup, I did realize that her second Pokemon was Pangoro, who has a Dark type, which means that it's immune to Psychic type moves. So I brought in Clefairy to start getting funky with those Calm Minds. With all the Calm Minds set up, we use Moonlight to heal up and start unleashing our assault. One Moonblast is more than enough to take out Hitmontop, and then if you thought that was overkill, the 4 times effective Moonblast on Pangoro wipes it out. Sirfetch'd is next, and he goes down too. Finally, the Ace Machamp comes in. While it puts on a pretty scary display, it ultimately goes down just like its buddies, to 1 max Starfall. It blows up for some reason, and then we get the 4th gym badge. From here, we do some story stuff, and then we head into one of my favorite areas in the game, the Glimwood Tangle. And we get to add another member to our team, a Shiinotic. Then we head back to the wild area and grab a Togetic. We go to the digging duo and have them dig up a shiny stone, which we use to evolve our Togetic into a Togekiss. Then we head into what I thought was my audition for the local production of Hamlet, but it's actually the 5th gym, Opal's gym, the Fairy Gym. Now this gym has a gimmick where Opal will ask you a question every so often, and if you get it correct, you'll get a stat up. That couples very well with stored power. Clefable's Magic Guard enables us to stay in against the wheezing even though we're poisoned, and we set up a stored power with Calm Minds and take it out. Next up is her Togekiss, which outspeeds us and does a little bit of damage, but it goes down to a stored power. Next she sends in her Mawile, which this is our first experience with Steel type, which resists Psychic, but it goes down nonetheless. Finally, she sends in her Ace Alchemy, which she Dynamaxes. We actually don't Dynamax this time because that would decrease the amount of damage we do because stored power does more damage than Max Mindstorm. So we take it out in 1 hit. Then we head back to Hammerstoke, where Bede finds a new sugar mama. To say I'm jealous would be an understatement. Anyway, they head off together, and we go grab an Impidimp from the wild area. Then we head over to Sirchester, or is it Kerchester? Can't be sure. Whatever. Then we do the gym challenge, and that happens a lot. We manage to brute force our way through and challenge Gordy, the 6th gym leader. His first Pokemon, Barbaracle, has Shell Smash, which actually makes it so we can't just set up on the first thing. Instead, we take it out with a 4 times effective Giga Drain from Shiinotic. Next, he sends in his Shuckle, and then we send in our Togekiss. This thing has super low attack, so we're not really worried about it. Prior to challenging the gym, we taught our Togekiss Nasty Plot, which sharply raises special attack, and Aura Sphere, which is a fighting type move that uses special attack. So, we max out our special attack on the Togekiss and then hit the Shuckle with an Aura Sphere. It doesn't go down to 1 because of its high defense and the fact that Bug actually resists fighting, but the second one is enough to take it down. Next up is Stonegener, who goes down faster than the time it took me to learn how to pronounce its name. Finally, his Ace Colossal comes in, and we find ourselves in another Dynamax showdown. This is actually pretty scary because Shuckle had lowered my speed enough that the Colossal outspeeds. So we had to take a rock type move, Gigantamaxed, which is a little bit scary, but we tank it like a champ. And then we summon a gigantic fist that flies out of the sky and blows it up. 6 gym badges secured. From here, we head out to the wild area and catch a Mawile. Its Steel Fairy dual type is pretty good defensively, and it has high physical defense and high physical attack, which is a good addition to the team. Afterwards, we head out and rent a paddle boat, and then it's on to Spikemuth, where we get to see Mr. Mime getting down. And we get to go to the worst concert of all time? I'm with this guy in the front, I want it to stop. Like, are they booing? They didn't even make custom music for this. Anyway, Spikemuth's gym leader is named Pierce, and it's actually Marnie's older sister. And she specializes in dark types, which are weak to all of our Pokemon. That's not going to stop me from setting up, though. We do have to take out this Scrafty initially because it has Sand Attack, which could lower our accuracy to a point where it'd be unreliable to hit. Then Malamar comes in, and we start setting up Nasty Plot. I'll go ahead and skip to the point where we max out our special attack. For this fight, we are actually running Dazzling Gleam because it's a fairy type move that dark types are weak to. 1 Dazzling Gleam and the Malamar goes down. Then the Obstagoon comes in. 1 Dazzling Gleam cleans that up too, and the Skuntank comes in. It has Fake Out, so it does a little bit of damage, but next turn, Dazzling Gleam cleans it up. That's 7 gyms down. From here, we go straight into the 8th gym to face Raihan. Before this, we had 0 deaths, and at this point, this is when the game really ramps up in difficulty, especially for fairy types. You might think, being named the Dragon Gym Leader, it would be easy because Fairy's immune to Dragon type moves, but he actually only has a couple of dragons, and they all have good fairy coverage moves. Also, this fight is in the doubles format, which makes it way harder to set up. Our plan was to use Togekiss as a decoy for Gardevoir. While Togekiss protected and healed itself with Wish, Gardevoir could set up Calm Mind, and then we could use Stored Power at max power. But that went all completely wrong when Flygon just smacked Gardevoir in the head right off the bat. I'm really not proud of the way that I played this fight. I kind of panicked at this point. I used Gardevoir to set up a couple charms on the Gigalith and also on the Flygon, but it took too much damage and we had to send in Sylveon in its place. Didn't really have a plan at this point. I was just kind of stalling for time until I could figure out a way to get Gardevoir back in, or I could figure out a way to start setting up with Togekiss. On this next turn, the Gigalith for some reason uses Rock Blast on Sylveon, even though it has a super effective Rock Blast on Togekiss, and gets 2 crits and a full 5 hits, which takes out 2/3 of Sylveon's health, which is insane because it's at -4 attack. We have to bring in Mawile, and the Intimidate brings the attack down further. At this point, we start setting up Iron Defense on Mawile, which will make it able to stay in for a really long time. We really need to get the attack down on the Flygon. So we bring in the Whimsicott, partially because we want a Charm, and also because Togekiss took a lot of damage. Eventually, we swap in Weezing for the Mawile because it was taking too much damage. We're really trying to loop around a Gardevoir and get the setup going again. Unfortunately, because our Weezing doesn't have Levitate, it actually gets hit by a Sand Tomb, which traps it on the battlefield and makes us unable to switch it out, and we lose it. That's our very first casualty of this run. We bring in Togekiss, and you turn out Whimsicott. Now we're back to the original plan. The setup is going well, but unfortunately a few turns later, Gigalith hits a few Rock Blasts on Togekiss and gets a couple crits and takes it out. Our second death, and it's a really big one. Togekiss brings so much coverage to this team. In his name, we continue the setup. We're going to blast this team. Eventually, we get to +6 on Calm Mind, which is actually important because his ace is Duraludon, which is a Steel Dragon. It Dynamaxes and also resists Psychic moves. So, just to be sure we're going to take it out in one hit, we need to be maxed out. We take out the Gigalith and the Sandaconda, and then he sends in the Duraludon, which immediately Dynamaxes. This is the moment of truth. We hit it with a stored power, and it goes down in one hit. Now all that's left is cleaning up the Flygon, and we can move on out of this horrible, horrible place. And with a heavy heart and heavy casualties, we get the 8th gym badge, and move on to Winden, where the finals are being held. We fight the Cafe Master for some experience, and it's Slurpuff Nose Flamethrower. Okay, killed them all while. It's not in its learn set, I checked. I have no idea why it knows that. Anyway, we go into the tournament. In the first round, we're facing Marnie, who's a Dark-type trainer. Our plan here is to set up with Clefable and use Moonblast. I get a little bit scared when the Liepard uses Nasty Plot, so we end up taking it out early without setting up all of our Calm Minds. And from here, we proceed into what should be an easy sweep. The Liepard goes down, and next up is Toxicroak, which goes down to a Moonblast. From here, she sends in Morpeko, which also goes down to a Moonblast. Marnie is now down to her last 2 Pokemon. She sends in a Scrafty, which uses Swagger on us, and then we proceed to hurt ourselves in Confusion 3 times in a row, which does more damage because of the Swagger raising our attack, and leaves us in a terrible, terrible position. We end up having to switch in Sylveon for Clefable, and we have to Dynamax early just to make sure that the Scrafty doesn't get too much damage on us before she sends in her Ace. We take out the Scrafty, and then we're finally onto our last Pokemon, a Grimmsnarl. This is pretty scary because Sylveon is more tanky on the special side, and Grimmsnarl is a physical attacker. And we're at half health. You should really just watch my reaction for this one. We'll always have that time at camp. Good night, sweet prince. Anyway, we send in Whimsicott to stall out the rest of the Dynamax turns and maybe hit a Charm on it once it's done. It takes too much damage to get the Charm off, and we bring in the Shiinotic to put it to sleep with a Spore. From here, we use Strength Sap, which decreases the opponent's attack and also heals Shiinotic in the process. We use Shiinotic's variety of healing moves to stall until Effect Spore actually triggers and poisons the Grimmsnarl. At this point, it's just a stall game. We stall it out and we win the battle. But at what cost? From here, our team limps into a battle with Hop. This one actually goes according to plan because Dubwool is so weak that it's just not a threat. It allows us to get 6 Calm Minds off and just start melting things with Moonblast. As mentioned, Dubwool gets melted. Next up is Pincurchin, which, what even is this little thing? Get off the screen. And then Corviknight comes in. And, okay, it's gone. His Snorlax is actually a little bit scary because it does no Heavy Slam, but it goes down in one hit. And then, it's time for Cinderace. Cinderace has some pretty scary, powerful physical moves that are super effective against us. So we use Max Guard the first turn, and then we take a Max Ooze, and then fire back with a Max Starfall. This ends up taking out the Cinderace even though it resists the Fairy type move. At this point, the tournament is interrupted by some evil stuff happening. And this entire evil team actually uses Steel types, which are really scary for us. And most of the battles end up going kind of like this. A scary amount of damage on Clefable, and then it kills it with a Flamethrower. At the top of the tower, there's the evil assistant, who actually specializes in poison types, which are very scary for us as well. Her team kicks off with a Frostlass, which knows Will-O-Wisp and Hex. Hex is a ghost type move that deals double damage when the target is affected by a status condition. We do really want to set up on this team because she has some even more scary Pokemon down the pipe. So we stall with Wish and Protect until she runs out of Hex PP, and then we can start setting up our Calm Mind. Her Frostlass is actually maxed out on evasion once we get our Calm Mind set up. So it's a little bit scary, but we do actually manage to get a hit on it. Next up is her Salazzle, who uses a super effective Venoshock on us, but we do survive with a ton of health and take it out easy peasy with a stored power. From here, the rest of her team should be a clean sweep. Melodic goes down to a stored power just like her friends. And Serena? I guess? I don't know. It goes down to a stored power too. Then she brings in her ace Garbodor, who, fun fact, is the only Pokemon not from Galar or Gen 1 who has a Gigantamax form. Not that it really matters because it just goes down immediately to a stored power. And then we just have a gigantic garbage fire on our hands. And Oleana hits us with the saddest puppy dog face. From here we head into the start of the climax of the story, which they didn't even bother to animate. It's just a series of still images. I don't even really care, but it's just the principle, you know? Even though there's some real evil stuff going down, the next day of the tournament commences regardless. And we're matched up against Bede, who's now a fairy type trainer. Our plan is to set up against this Mawile. We get a couple charms off on it, and I think everything is going well. We just need to not get crit here, and right, and we got, okay, yep, we got crit. All right, rip Gardevoir. Good thing we have a couple backup Pokemon. Bring in Grimmsnarl and start setting up with Bulk Up. After a couple Bulk Ups, we hit it with a Drain Punch, which takes out the Mawile and also gives us a nice chunky heal. From here, Bede sends in his Gardevoir, which is a non-issue because we have strong physical moves and Gardevoir's defense is really low. Next, he sends in a Rapidash, which has the same issue as Gardevoir and goes down in much the same way. Finally, we're up against his ace Hatterene. He Dynamaxes, we Dynamax right back and take it out in one hit. Oh yeah, and it explodes for some reason. Next up is the Water-type gym leader, Nessa. She has a few new team members, and she leads with a Golisopod. This is a bug water type, but it actually only has one bug type move, and it can only be used on the first turn that it's on the battlefield. So we protect right through it. Unfortunately, it also knows Swords Dance, which is very scary on this thing. Fortunately, we managed to hit a Spore on it and start Strength Sapping it while it's asleep. We chip it with Giga Drain and also keep its attack low with Strength Sap, and eventually we trigger Emergency Exit, which is its ability that brings in Pelipper. Pelipper hits a super effective Air Slash on us that also crits, but like the clutch homie he is, Shroomy lives and hits a Spore. From here, we're able to switch in Clefable and do the old Calm Mind setup. With Clefable all locked and loaded, we start our sweep. Pelipper goes down to the first Moonblast, and then the next victim comes in, Seaking. He goes down just the same. Then Golisopod comes back in. He hits us with First Impression, but we resist it, so it doesn't do too much damage. Her second to last Mon is a Barraskewda, who, you guessed it, goes down to Moonblast. And in the Dynamax battle against the Dreadnought, Max Starfall is enough to take him out. Even the water types explode in this game. Next up is the fighting gym leader, Bia, who should be the most straightforward fight out of all of these. Her lead is Hawlucha, who gives us a really great opportunity to set up our Calm Minds. Once we're all set up, we start firing off Moonblasts. Hawlucha goes down, Surfetched as well, and Graplocked. Her second to last Mon is Phalanx, who crumbles under the might of Clefairy. And then her ace Machamp comes in. He puts on a big display just like the first time, but it's not enough. He goes down to the Starfall. Finally, a fight that went according to plan. Next up is Raihan. This fight is in the singles format, but it's still pretty scary. He's added a Torkoal to his team, which is his lead. It knows a variety of special moves and has Drought, which boosts its special moves as well. So we set up a light screen. He hits us with a Yawn, which we were prepared for. So we switch in Clefairy. He hits us with a Solar Beam, which barely tickles through the light screen. Our goal here is to take this Torkoal out without getting Clefairy put to sleep, and then start setting up on his next Pokemon. So as it yawns us, we switch back to Grimmsnarl, and then we switch from Grimmsnarl to Clefairy so that we can keep them both awake and keep chipping away at this Torkoal until we can take it out. Towards the end of the fight, we decide to let Grimmsnarl go to sleep so they can set up another light screen and keep Clefairy all safe and sound. We switch Clefairy back in and finally take this thing out with a Moonblast. His next Pokemon is Turtonator, who just uses Shell Trap no matter what we do. We don't even have a move that could trigger Shell Trap. But still, Raihan's just in the back there, like, yes, He'll never expect this shell trap. Eventually, we get all set up with +6 Calm Mind and take out the Turtonator. Next up is Goodra, which we take out in one hit. Then he sends in Flygon, who outspeeds us and hits us with an Earthquake, but it doesn't do too much damage, and we get our Moonblast off and one-tap it. Finally, we get a rematch with the Duraludon. This thing actually outspeeds Clefairy, and has a super effective Steel move, which we managed to barely live, thankfully it didn't crit, and we get our max Starfall off, which I'm clearly happy about.
So clutch! Yeah!
With that battle out of the way, we can finally take on the champion. No evil plan could stop this battle, right? Oh, of course. So once again, it falls on a child to save the world. Now, Chairman Rose actually has a team full of super strong steel types, so this is going to be a tough battle for us. Luckily, Clefairy learned Flamethrower as a coverage move, and that's 4 times effective against Escavalier. We take it out, but he sends in his Berserker, which is a bit of a curveball. We were definitely expecting Ferrothorn at this point. We get a Charm off on it, and we have to just pray for no crit on this Iron Head. Okay, we're good. We're banking on this Flamethrower taking it out in one hit, or else we're probably going to lose Clefairy. Fortunately, it decides to use Screech instead of Iron Head and spares us. So the next turn, we can take it out with another Flamethrower. The next Pokemon up is the Ferrothorn. We know this Ferrothorn only has one Steel-type move, and that move is Gyro Ball. Gyro Ball's damage is based off of the relative speed of the 2 Pokemon. The slower the user is relative to the opponent, the more damage it does. So, we send in Shiinotic, who's very slow. This move also only has 5 PP, so we know we can stall it out if we heal enough. We just sit in with Shiinotic and stall out all its attacking moves until it's completely out of PP, at which point we bring in Grimmsnarl and start bulking up in preparation for a Drain Punch. It starts struggling and then we actually just let it kill itself. We didn't have enough time to get completely maxed out on bulk up, but we're +4, so we're banking on the fact that that'll be enough to take out the rest of his Pokemon. One Drain Punch is enough for Klinklang, and then Copperajah comes in and goes down to 1 max Knuckle. All that we have left now is the Eternatus fight, and then it's on to the champion. Eternatus is pretty boring. I won't show you too much, but all you have to know is the only attack it used on me killed Grimmsnarl. Rip, buddy. So we didn't actually get an encounter out of the wild area after the 8th gym. And my chat told me that you can get a Cantonian Mr. Mime from a trade in Spikemuth. So now we have a team of 4 strong going in to take on Leon. Oh yeah, Shiinotic died while we were grinding in the wild area. Rip, buddy. We head over to the stadium and get ready for the battle. After a ton of research, my chat and I actually realized that Ribombee learns Quiver Dance at 64. This raises special attack, special defense, and speed. The speed is key because Leon's team is very fast, so we need to get 2 Quiver Dances off and then baton pass that to Mr. Mime. At that point, Mr. Mime will outspeed the entire team. From there, if we can get a couple Calm Minds off, we should be able to sweep the entire team with stored power. With our plan in mind, we head into the final battle. Leon's first Pokemon is Aegislash, which is a Ghost Steel type. It has the Steel move Flash Cannon, which is super effective against my whole team, but it goes for a King's Shield on the first turn. So we get a Quiver Dance off with no damage. The next turn we get a second Quiver Dance off and all we need is to just live this hit. We had equipped a Babini Berry before this battle, which actually weakens Steel type moves. So the Flash Cannon's damage is halved. It still does nearly a third of Ribombee's health, even through 2 special defense ups and the 50% damage reduction from the berry. Good thing we used that berry. The next turn we use Baton Pass and pass the buffs to Mr. Mime. We know that it's going to attack this turn just from the pattern that it's been playing, but we need to get at least 1 Calm Mind off. So we get the Calm Mind off and then tank the attack. It doesn't crit, so Mr. Mime lives. We know that this Aegislash is going to protect next turn, so we use a Calm Mind and get our final buff. We decide that +4 is enough and we start firing off stored powers. Hopefully this kills. And it does! From this point, we've done the math and we know we have a clean sweep. So, we just get to watch the Mons go down. Haxorus gets taken out. Then he sends in Dragapult, who meets the same fate. Next in line is Rhyperior. He didn't even know what hit him. Poor guy. Leon's second to last Pokemon is a Rillaboom, which goes down like the others. Finally, he sends in his Charizard, who makes a big ol' show of Dynamaxing and looks all cool with his fiery wings, and then goes down in one hit from some tiny creepy mime thing. And just like that, we're the champion. This run was awesome. I loved this game. For all the flack it gets, I think Sword is a great Pokemon game. With the wild area, you have so much access to diverse sets of Pokemon, and I'll definitely be back to do another one of these runs. So let me know in the comments if you want to see any particular type. Also, if you watched this long, I have a feeling that you liked the video. But have you actually clicked the like button is the question. If you haven't, go ahead and do that. It really helps me out. And if you want to see more of these challenges in the future, go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you can get them right when they come out. Anyway, thanks for watching. Till next time.